Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name is Christine St. Laurent, and I'm a fitness professional and wellness contributor to the Manchester 95210 Health Initiative. The Manchester School Readiness Council has funded this project of a preschool fitness program. I developed a manual and designed it to provide Manchester preschool teachers and early child care providers with a fitness and physical activity plan to implement into their current curriculum and schedule. However, this program and the tips and resources that I'll be going through in the 3 videos will be beneficial for anyone working with young children, so parents, grandparents, babysitters, etc. Now, this information is going to be broken down into 3 short video segments. That way, if you're really busy, you can fit in a few minutes at a time, or you can just go to the video with the information that pertains to you. The first video will include an introduction to the program, the purpose behind it, the current activity guidelines for young children, and the benefits and problems associated with physical activity, as well as a brief overview of the kindergarten school readiness expectations and framework. The second video will go over the program. This will include the recommendations for preschool activity. It will go over some special instructional tips and ideas. The third video will actually go over probably what most of you want to know, the activities that you can use with your preschoolers, and some sample lesson plans when you're working with groups of children. So again, as I mentioned, the purpose of this plan that we put together was to provide Manchester preschool teachers and early child care providers, as well as parents, grandparents, anyone working with kids, with a fitness and physical activity plan that can be implemented into their current curriculum and schedule. We wanted to provide support to these childhood educators and caregivers so children can achieve at least 1 hour of structured physical activity every day and 1 hour of unstructured physical activity. That can seem like a tall order, and we hope that teachers and parents, family members can work together to work toward this 1 hour of activity. But oftentimes, child care providers may have kids for multiple hours each day, so we want to help influence that total amount of activity. Now, it's very tricky to find some established guidelines for young children under 5. However, the National Association for Sport and Physical Education does have a position statement, and in that it states all children from birth to age 5 should engage daily in physical activity that promotes movement skillfulness and foundations of health-related fitness. They broke their guidelines further into toddler age and preschool age. So with toddlers, they're referring to children under the age of 3. Their recommendations are that toddlers should get at least 30 minutes of structured physical activity. So structured movements that are engaged in activities that we've planned and thought out for them. They also should engage in at least 60 minutes or more, preferably, of unstructured activities, so free play, where they're encouraged to really move their bodies and muscles. We also want to try to avoid more than 60 minutes of sedentary or inactive activity at a time, with the exception of sleeping. So at night and nap time, you can disregard that time. Now, the guidelines for preschoolers are pretty similar, except they are expected or encouraged to get at least 1 hour of structured activity. The remaining recommendations are the same. Note that the 3rd, 4th, and 5th guidelines here are also encouraging care providers and teachers to provide opportunities for these children to work on different motor skills and movements, as well as providing them with safe, open areas, both indoor and outdoor, that will allow them to perform large muscle activities. Now, the American guidelines for physical activity are really targeting those age 5, 6, and older. However, we will apply them to the preschool age here as well, in that the American guidelines encourage children to include movements or exercises that are aerobic, muscle strengthening, and bone strengthening. So we want to consider that in the activities that we're choosing for our preschoolers. Aerobic activities are going to be movements that rhythmically move large muscles. So things that are repetitive and rhythmic in nature, such as walking, running, swimming, biking, would all be considered aerobic exercises. Muscle strengthening are those movements that are going to stimulate and promote muscle growth. So movements where they're climbing or pulling themselves up, or pushing themselves off of the ground, or bending down and standing back up, such as a squat. Bone strengthening activities would be stimulating and promoting bone growth. A lot of times these movements will be associated with ground impacts, such as jumping or running, but anything that would also provide an additional load in addition to the body weight. Okay, so there are many benefits associated with physical activity in young children. So kids that are more active in their early childhood or even through their adolescence are more likely to be more active when they're adults. So if it's already part of their lifestyle, they're starting off on the right foot. Consistent activity is going to help children obtain and maintain a healthy body composition. So obviously keeping their body fat to a healthy limit, as well as increasing their lean muscle mass. And of course, activity, as we just mentioned with the activity types that there are recommended, it's going to help build and maintain strong, healthy muscles, bones, and joints. Now, unfortunately, a lot of times our bone mineral density and our muscle strength actually peak in our 20s. So we really want the kids to get the best jump start on that they can early on. So exercise or activity can also provide children with a great social outlet. This will help them in developing important interpersonal skills. They'll be learning things, basic teamwork movements, and working with others. It can definitely help with sleep quality and the amount of sleep that children get. Many parents, such as myself, know exactly how frustrating it can be to put your kids to bed when they really didn't get a lot of activity that day. Quite different from a day that they've been out playing in the snow or swimming or running outside. Okay, exercise or activity can also promote, or there's been associations with improved school attendance and academic performance. Some studies have also found that, or researchers have found that exercising right before a lesson plan actually helps the kids to focus. They've kind of gotten a little bit of their energy out, and it helps their stimulate the brain a little bit more. A lot of children who are more active find an increase in self-esteem, or it can help their self-esteem as well as promote better self-images. And also, children, unfortunately, are falling prey to many of the lifestyle-related diseases that, traditionally or in the past have been more associated with adulthood: heart disease, diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure. So consistent, regular physical activity is going to help prevent that, or at least delay the onset of these diseases. There's been fewer reports of symptoms of anxiety and depression with children who are more active, and it can help with overall mood, same as adults here. And of course, it's going to improve the children's motor coordination, enhance their development of various motor performance skills. So those things we just need to give them opportunities to practice. Okay, so the problem with the inactivity among our children, unfortunately, about 1/3 of the children in the U.S. are either overweight or obese. And so some of the medical and social concerns associated with a higher body mass index, a BMI, which even though it's not necessarily considering your body composition, BMI is just looking at a ratio of your height and weight. They often associate this with some of these health diseases here. So those children with a higher BMI are experiencing higher blood pressure, cholesterol, abnormal blood lipid levels, such as glucose, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. So just as I mentioned a moment ago, things that were previously associated with adults are now not only with happening in adolescence, but happening with elementary school and even preschool age children. They're developing bone and joint problems, often having a low bone mineral density. Children who are inactive may have a more difficult time with catching their breath or going through daily movements comfortably. And those children with asthma the symptoms are actually aggravated, or it can increase the chance of developing asthma if the children are too inactive. As we mentioned too, there might be disordered or altered sleep patterns, liver and gallbladder disease. We mentioned self-esteem already. Social discrimination, we could go on and on about that, and of course mental health as well. So we know that children are inactive. What's causing our youth to be so sedentary compared to the past? Well, there's a variety of potential reasons for this, and it can be completely individualized for each child. But some of the contributors possibly to the problem of sedentary inactivity among our children are an increase in screen time. With all the technology and electronic access we have now, we have computers, tablets, all these game systems, TVs, basically, the media on the go. Kids are spending more time sitting and watching than moving their bodies. There's a decrease in outdoor play among our youth. This could be associated with safety concerns or inadequate access to a safe outdoor area or an open outdoor area. Genetics definitely does play a role. Some children are definitely going to be born at a disadvantage based on the genes they have. They may be more prone to some of the health-related diseases. And then, of course, there's exposure to the culture at home. If their parents are inactive or the people they're around are inactive, then they're more likely going to follow into that same suit, that same lifestyle. If physical activity isn't a priority or importance isn't placed on it in the home, then that's the message that we're going to be sending to the kids as well. And believe it or not, there are actually guidelines or recommendations that preschoolers should achieve, or hopefully achieve, kind of target benchmarks here before they enter kindergarten. The list is actually surprisingly quite extensive. So our preschool fitness manual is listed on the 95210 website, so you can visit the website and check out the full list of the school readiness requirements that are listed in the Connecticut's Healthy and Balanced Living Curriculum Framework.